You are watching Beyond the News. Like, comment, and subscribe.
Pleasant good day to you, our viewers. Welcome to Beyond the News. I am Darren Brown. A horrific car attack occurred at a sports stadium in Zhuhai, China, resulting in at least 35 deaths and 43 injuries. The perpetrator, a 62-year-old man named Mr. Fan, targeted individuals exercising on the track, motivated by a property dispute following his divorce. Witnesses described a devastating rampage where the car struck multiple groups of people, injuring children and elderly individuals. The attack has sparked national outrage and calls for justice, while residents have gathered at the stadium to mourn the victims.
A horrific car attack that happened in China
Mhm.
uh, at the Zhuhai Sports Center.
Right.
It seems like it was just an ordinary Monday, people out exercising, enjoying the day,
Sure.
and
Like a
suddenly,
normal day.
yeah, and suddenly their lives are shattered
Yeah.
by this senseless act of violence.
Terrible.
At least 35 people were killed
Yeah. It's awful.
and 43 others injured.
It's yeah, the deadliest public attack in China in decades.
It's really hard to even fathom,
Right.
something like this happening.
Yeah.
So what can we learn from this tragedy?
Well, I think one of the things that's really disturbing about it is the indiscriminate nature of the attack.
Okay.
We're talking about people jogging, walking groups, even children and elderly folks among the victims.
Yeah.
The attacker, a 62-year-old man named Mr. Fan, drove his car directly onto the running track,
Oh, wow.
seemingly targeting anyone in his path. So it paints a very chilling picture of chaos and terror.
That's really difficult to process, but
Yeah,
the sheer horror of that scene,
absolutely.
and these were real people with families and lives ahead of them,
Of course.
just simply going about their day.
Right.
And it makes you question, how could someone reach a point
Yeah.
where they commit such a horrific act?
I mean, that's the question that investigators are grappling with right now. I
Sure.
mean, the suspected motive, at least for now, appears to be a property dispute
Uh,
stemming from Mr. Fan's divorce.
mhm.
But as you pointed out, property disputes are unfortunately
Yeah,
fairly common.
happen all the time.
Yeah. And so, what makes this case different?
Right.
What pushes someone to this extreme?
Yeah.
And that's where it gets really interesting.
Is there anything that we can learn from, similar cases
Sure.
that might shed light on this kind of escalation?
Yeah, absolutely. Research into cases of extreme violence often reveals this kind of complex interplay of factors,
Okay.
financial strain, social isolation,
Exam.
a perceived sense of injustice
Uh-huh.
can create a pressure cooker environment in an individual's mind.
Right.
And in some cases, there's also a history of mental health issues
Okay.
or a buildup of resentment and anger that kind of goes unchecked.
Wow.
But of course, it's important to remember that each case is unique
Sure.
and requires careful analysis.
Absolutely. So while we wait for more information on Mr. Fan's background, I think it's crucial to examine, you know,
Yes,
the wider impact of this tragedy.
exactly. The aftermath has sent shockwaves throughout China and beyond.
It's hard to imagine,
Yeah.
how something like this doesn't.
Right.
Right.
President Xi Jinping has condemned the attack and called for justice,
Of course.
highlighting the need to address the root causes of such
Yeah.
violence and provide support for the victims and their families. And the stadium, once a place for recreation, has really become a place of mourning.
Yeah.
Just a stark reminder of the lives lost.
This incident also raises questions about, security in public spaces.
Absolutely.
Um, if something like this can happen at a sports center, could it happen anywhere?
Yeah.
And how do we balance the need for security
Mhm.
with maintaining an open society?
It's a very delicate balance.
Yeah.
And this event certainly underscores the vulnerabilities we face.
Right.
While it's impossible to prevent every act of violence,
Right.
this tragedy could prompt a reevaluation of security measures in public spaces.
Yeah.
It could lead to discussions about how to identify and address
Uh-huh.
potential warning signs in individuals who might pose a threat.
One thing that really struck me was the story of Mr. Chen,
Right.
a witness who barely escaped with his walking group.
Oh, wow.
He described the terror of seeing the car barreling towards them,
Oh, gosh.
the sheer panic of trying to get out of the way.
Yeah.
And it makes you realize, the lasting trauma this event will leave
Sure.
on survivors and witnesses.
Absolutely. The psychological scars of such an experience can be profound.
Yes.
It's crucial that we provide adequate mental health support for those who have been directly affected by this tragedy.
Yeah, this whole deep dive has been incredibly unsettling,
Yeah,
to say the least.
it's a lot.
And it leaves us with a lot to think about,
Sure.
How do we make sense of such senseless violence? What
Yeah.
steps can we take to create a safer world?
It's a complex issue with no easy answers.
Right.
But I think what's fascinating here is that while this event has shaken us,
Yeah.
it also has the potential to be a catalyst for positive change.
Okay.
It can spark conversations about mental health awareness,
Huh.
conflict resolution, and community resilience.
Okay.
And perhaps in the face of this tragedy, we can find ways to better support each other
Yeah.
and work towards a future where such horrific events become less likely.
It's a good thought.
It's something worth reflecting on.
Yeah. And it's a conversation we all need to be a part of.
I agree.
Well, thank you for joining me for this deep dive.
Absolutely.
And yeah, we'll be back soon with another one.
Sounds good.
All right.
Okay, bye.
Bye.